I spent 2 years becoming the perfect girlfriend, cooking his favorite meals, dressing how he liked, even changing my career path. The day he proposed to someone else, I realized I had committed the deadliest sin of personal growth. Recent 2025 research shows that people who change for external validation experience significantly higher rates of anxiety and depression, with well-being dropping measurably within months of shifting motivations externally. But here's what nobody tells you about the difference between changing for others versus changing for yourself, and why neuroscience proves one leads to lasting happiness while the other destroys your soul. Let me show you exactly how this played out in my life. The perfect life that wasn't mine. It started with Italian cooking classes. He mentioned once that his ex made incredible pasta, so I signed up for a 6-week course at the community center. Every Tuesday night, I stood in that fluorescent-lit kitchen, learning to make gnocchi from scratch. The instructor praised my quick hands, but all I could think about was whether he would notice the effort, whether this version of me would finally be enough. Then came the career pivot. He worked in tech and always seemed impressed by ambitious women in his field. I had been happy teaching elementary school, but suddenly my job felt small and embarrassing when he talked about his work friends. I enrolled in coding boot camps, spent evenings learning programming languages that made my head spin, and started applying for marketing roles at startups. The salary increase was nice, but every day felt like swimming upstream against my natural current. Chronic external motivation releases cortisol over time, worsening anxiety and exhaustion. I monitored my words, adjusted my interests, and performed enthusiasm for activities that drained me. Every conversation became a calculation. Would the real me say this? What would the improved me do instead? The mental load of being someone else 16 hours a day left me depleted and irritable. Sleep became elusive because my mind wouldn't stop rehearsing. I replayed conversations, analyzing whether I had been the right kind of person in each moment. I planned future interactions, scripting responses that would maintain the illusion. My dreams were filled with anxiety about forgetting my lines in this performance I had never auditioned for. The crushing moment came on a random Thursday evening. After months of transformation, after becoming everything I thought he wanted, he sat me down with that look people get before delivering bad news. The relationship wasn't working, he said. I felt distant and different. He missed who I used to be when we first met. The irony hit like a physical blow. I had changed everything about myself to keep him, and the changes were exactly what drove him away. But this pattern wasn't unique to romantic relationships. I watched it play out everywhere once I knew what to look for. My friend Jessica started dressing preppy and talking about tennis when she wanted to join the country club crowd. My colleague Mark began using corporate buzzwords and staying late to impress his new boss, even though the extra hours made him miserable. A 2025 Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology study tracked couples for 2 years and found 73% changed core aspects of themselves for relationships, leading to significantly higher rates of anxiety and depression. These changes ranged from major life decisions like career paths and living locations to daily habits like exercise routines and social activities. Those who made significant changes for external approval showed increased rates of anxiety, depression, and relationship dissatisfaction. The physical toll surprised me most. My body kept score of every inauthentic moment. Headaches became frequent visitors. My stomach stayed in knots from the constant stress of performance. I caught more colds, slept poorly, and felt exhausted, even after full nights of rest. My doctor suggested stress management techniques. But how do you manage the stress of being someone you're not? The mental impact was even more devastating. I started questioning my own judgment about everything. If my natural preferences weren't good enough for the people I wanted to attract, maybe I couldn't trust my instincts about anything. Decision-making became paralyzed by doubt. Should I choose what I wanted or what I thought others expected? The line between authentic preference and performed preference blurred until I couldn't find it anymore. Constant approval-seeking turned me into a psychological contortionist. I twisted myself into whatever shape seemed most likely to earn validation. At work, I agreed with opinions that made me uncomfortable. With friends, I laughed at jokes that weren't funny and pretended to enjoy activities that bored me. With family, I stayed quiet about values that mattered to me to avoid disappointment or conflict. The real tragedy wasn't just what I became, but what I lost in the process. My natural curiosity got buried under layers of strategic interest. My genuine sense of humor disappeared behind careful words designed to please rather than express. My authentic reactions got filtered through a mental committee that asked not what do I think, but what should I think? This raises the fundamental question that haunts anyone who has ever changed themselves for others. Can any transformation motivated by external pressure actually last? The research suggests not. Changes made to earn approval lack the internal foundation necessary for sustainable behavior. They require constant maintenance and external reinforcement. When the audience changes or disappears, the motivation evaporates, leaving people exhausted and resentful. The central conflict becomes clear when you understand the difference between authentic growth and performative transformation. Authentic growth springs from internal recognition of areas where change would serve your own values and goals. Performative transformation attempts to become what you think others want, regardless of whether those changes align with your true self or actually improve your life. Standing in my apartment that Thursday night after he left, I looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. The woman staring back wore clothes I didn't choose, had interests I didn't share, and worked a job that felt foreign to her nature. She had spent months becoming someone else so completely that the original person seemed like a distant memory. The saddest part wasn't that the strategy failed to keep him. The saddest part was that I couldn't remember who I had been before I started trying to become someone else. What I didn't understand then was that my brain had been working against me the entire time, processing every forced change as a threat rather than growth. The science behind fake change. Your brain processes changing for others completely differently than changing for yourself. When you make changes to please someone else, you activate different neural pathways than when you make changes because you genuinely want to grow. Neuroscience research shows that intrinsic and extrinsic motivation involve distinct corticostriatal limbic circuits. This means your brain literally treats these two types of motivation as separate systems, and only one of them builds lasting change. Extrinsic approval triggers a short-lived dopamine rush, while intrinsic motivation engages distinct brain pathways that sustain longer-term satisfaction. When you please someone and they approve, your brain releases dopamine, giving you that temporary rush of satisfaction. But this creates a dangerous cycle. Your brain starts craving that external approval to feel good, which means you need more and more validation to get the same high. People pleasers become addicted to making others happy because their brains have been conditioned to seek that quick dopamine fix from outside sources. This is completely different from the dopamine release you get from internal satisfaction. When you accomplish something that matters to you personally, your brain processes that reward through different pathways. The satisfaction lasts longer and doesn't require constant external input to maintain. You can feel proud of your progress even when nobody else notices or cares. The over-justification effect explains why external rewards can actually kill your natural motivation. Research shows that when children receive rewards for playing with toys they already enjoyed, they lose interest in those toys once the rewards stop. The same thing happens with personal changes. If you start exercising because someone else wants you to, you lose touch with any natural enjoyment you might have found in movement. The external reward shifts your focus away from internal satisfaction. Chronic, inauthentic living activates your threat response, flooding your brain with stress hormones, as noted in Mate's research. Your body produces cortisol when you feel under threat, and pretending to be someone you're not triggers this response constantly. The stress hormone cortisol intensifies anxiety, creating a cycle where the more you worry about maintaining your false persona, the more stressed you become. Your body stays in a state of chronic alert, because deep down it knows you're living a lie. When you change for others, your brain's reward system becomes dependent on their approval. This creates a psychological trap where your sense of worth depends entirely on external validation. You stop trusting your own judgment about what makes you happy or what changes would actually improve your life. Instead, you constantly scan for signs of approval or disapproval from others, making their opinions more important than your own internal compass. Willpower alone cannot sustain changes made for someone else because willpower is a limited resource. When your motivation comes from external pressure, you have to use willpower to force yourself to continue behaviors that don't feel natural or rewarding. This depletes your mental energy quickly. But when changes align with your internal values, you don't need as much willpower because the behaviors feel more natural and self-reinforcing. External pressure activates your brain's threat detection system, the same network that responds to physical danger. When you feel you must change to avoid rejection or criticism, your brain interprets this as a survival threat. This keeps your nervous system in a heightened state of alert, making it harder to think clearly, make good decisions, or feel calm. Your body stays ready to fight, or flee, which is exhausting when sustained over long periods. The research on people pleasers shows clear connections to increased anxiety and depression. When your self-worth depends on others' approval, you live in constant fear of disappointment. You second-guess every decision, wondering if it will make others happy or upset them. This chronic uncertainty and fear of rejection creates the perfect conditions for anxiety disorders to develop. Depression often follows because people pleasers gradually lose touch with their authentic selves. When you spend months or years suppressing your real thoughts, feelings, and preferences, you can forget what you actually want from life. This disconnection from your true self creates a sense of emptiness and confusion that can develop into depression. You feel like you're living someone else's life while your real life passes you by. Conditional self-worth is one of the most dangerous psychological traps. This happens when you believe you're only valuable if you meet certain conditions or expectations. Maybe you think you're only lovable if you're successful, or only worthy of friendship if you're always agreeable. This creates a fragile sense of self that depends entirely on external circumstances you can't control. The problem with conditional self-worth is that it's never satisfied. Even when you meet one condition, your brain finds new ones to worry about. You might lose weight to please someone, but then worry about maintaining that weight. You might get the promotion to impress your parents, but then stress about keeping the job. The conditions multiply because the real issue isn't your behavior, it's your belief that you need to earn love and acceptance. When you operate from conditional self-worth, you can never relax into being yourself. Every interaction becomes a test of whether you're good enough. You monitor your words, adjust your behavior, and perform your personality instead of simply being who you are. This constant performance is exhausting and ultimately unsustainable. The brain science makes it clear that authentic change requires internal motivation. When you change because you genuinely want to grow, your brain processes this through the same pathways involved in self-determination and autonomy. These neural circuits are designed to sustain long-term behavior because they're connected to your core identity and values. Internal motivation creates what researchers call intrinsic satisfaction. This type of satisfaction doesn't depend on external rewards or recognition. You can feel proud of your progress even when nobody else notices. You can enjoy the process of change itself, not just the results. This makes the changes more sustainable because they're rewarding at every step, not just at the end. The neuroscience reveals why some people can maintain dramatic life changes while others struggle with small modifications. The difference isn't willpower or discipline. The difference is whether the changes serve your authentic self or an image you're trying to project. When you change for yourself, you work with your brain's natural systems. When you change for others, you work against them. This psychological warfare becomes most visible in romantic relationships where the stakes feel highest and the pressure to transform yourself can become overwhelming. When love becomes a performance. Sarah met Jake's family at their annual 4th of July barbecue and knew immediately she was in trouble. His mother looked at Sarah's vintage band t-shirt and said, "How interesting that you chose to wear that to a family gathering." When Sarah mentioned working at an art gallery, his father raised his eyebrows and asked if that was a real career with benefits. The message was clear. She didn't fit their vision of who Jake should be with. That night, Jake assured her his family would warm up to her, but Sarah heard something different in his voice. A slight embarrassment, a quiet wish that she had made a better first impression. She decided right then to become the kind of woman his family would approve of. The transformation started with her wardrobe. Sarah studied photos from Jake's sister's Instagram and traded her vintage dresses for conservative blouses and structured pants. Her statement jewelry disappeared into drawers, replaced by simple pearl earrings. She felt like she was wearing a costume to her own life, but Jake's smile when he saw her new look made it seem worth it. This type of performative change mirrors research findings that introjected motivations predict higher anxiety, as people internalize external pressures without truly accepting them as their own values. Her conversation style underwent a complete overhaul. Sarah naturally told stories with dramatic gestures and colorful language, making people laugh about ordinary events. But Jake's family preferred measured discussions about current events and career achievements. Sarah started monitoring every word before it left her mouth, suppressing funny observations and replacing them with thoughtful questions about politics and finance. The cognitive load of constant self-monitoring creates chronic stress, as documented in studies on authentic self-expression and mental health. Her interests changed next. Sarah loved obscure foreign films and experimental art installations, spending weekends exploring underground music venues and quirky bookshops. But these passions seemed frivolous when Jake's family discussed their serious hobbies like wine collecting and golf. Sarah signed up for wine appreciation courses and started reading financial news so she could contribute to conversations about market trends. For 6 months, Sarah maintained this performance. She showed up to family gatherings in conservative outfits, made polite conversation about topics that bored her, and suppressed every impulse that felt too casual or unconventional. Jake's mother started including her in planning conversations. His father began asking her opinions on business matters. The external validation felt rewarding initially, but required enormous mental energy to sustain. Sarah had to think before every interaction. She rehearsed conversations in her car before family dinners and Googled current events each morning. She monitored her body language, her laugh, even her facial expressions to convey the right image. The breaking point came during a quiet evening when Sarah showed Jake a silly video that made her burst into laughter. When he barely smiled, she realized she hadn't seen him really laugh in months. Jake looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. After a long pause, he said he missed the real her. He missed her weird sense of humor and passionate rants about art. He missed her random texts and little surprises. The woman she had become felt like a stranger who happened to look like his girlfriend. The irony hit her like cold water. She had changed everything about herself to make their relationship work with his family, and those changes were exactly what was killing their connection. She had been so focused on earning external approval that she lost the very qualities that made Jake fall for her in the first place. This pattern appears in relationship research with disturbing frequency. A 2025 study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that relationships where one partner made significant identity changes to please the other or their family showed marked declines in satisfaction and intimacy over time. The relationships that thrived were those where both partners accepted each other's authentic selves while supporting natural growth. Performance-based love creates resentment on both sides. The person changing feels exhausted from constant performance and angry that their authentic self isn't acceptable. The person being pleased feels uncomfortable with the artificial version of their partner and guilty about the pressure they created. Neither person gets what they actually want from the relationship. Sarah found herself caught in an exhausting cycle of monitoring and adjusting her behavior. Every family interaction became a test she had to pass. She analyzed her performance afterward, noting what worked and what didn't. The mental energy required for this constant calculation left her drained and irritable. The psychological toll extended beyond feeling tired. Sarah started losing touch with her own preferences and opinions. When Jake asked where she wanted to go for dinner, she automatically thought about what would make best impression rather than what she actually craved. Her decision-making process became so filtered through others' expectations that she couldn't access her authentic desires. Authentic attraction disappeared as authenticity did. Jake had fallen for Sarah's genuine enthusiasm, her unique perspective, and her natural way of moving through the world. When she suppressed these qualities, she eliminated the very things that created their original connection. You cannot maintain attraction to someone who has hidden everything that made them attractive in the first place. Relationship experts distinguish between healthy compromise and identity erasure. Healthy compromise means adjusting behaviors that genuinely cause problems, like learning to communicate more clearly during conflicts. Identity erasure means changing core aspects of your personality, interests, and values to fit someone else's expectations. Performance-based love isn't love at all. Real love sees you clearly and chooses you anyway. It doesn't require you to hide your quirks or suppress your natural reactions. When someone needs you to become a different person to earn their affection, they don't actually love you. They love the idea of you, or the version that makes them look good to others. Sarah's story ended when she realized that earning approval from Jake's family wasn't worth losing herself in the process. But romantic relationships aren't the only place where this destructive pattern emerges. The pressure to transform yourself for external validation can be just as intense in professional settings, where the stakes often feel even higher and the consequences more permanent. The career chameleon trap. Marcus switched from his dream of teaching to investment banking after meeting someone who made his passion feel small and worthless. He spent months learning to speak the language of finance, forcing enthusiasm for work that drained his energy and contradicted everything he valued about meaningful careers. The shift started when Vanessa, who worked at a prestigious investment firm, asked what he did for work. His answer, about substitute teaching while finishing his certification, felt embarrassing, next to her stories about million-dollar deals and international business trips. She dated lawyers and consultants who talked about ambitious 5-year plans and retirement portfolios. Marcus realized his dream of teaching middle school science didn't fit into conversations about career trajectories and earning potential. He applied to her firm's entry-level analyst program and spent weeks preparing for interviews about market trends and financial modeling. When they offered him the position, Vanessa was thrilled. She said she always knew he was too smart to waste his potential on a teacher's salary. The work required analytical skills he possessed, but applied them to problems that left him feeling completely empty. Every morning became a battle between his alarm clock and his desire to stay in bed. Marcus had always jumped out of bed excited about the day ahead. Now he hit snooze repeatedly and felt a weight in his chest as soon as he remembered where he had to go. The fluorescent office lights gave him headaches. The constant pressure to perform made his shoulders tight with tension. His performance reviews were mixed. Marcus could do the technical work, but his heart clearly wasn't in it. His manager noted that he seemed distracted during client meetings and lacked the aggressive drive that made great analysts. Marcus tried harder, working longer hours, and forcing enthusiasm he didn't feel. This type of extrinsic motivation depletes self-control resources over time, making sustained performance increasingly difficult to maintain. The breaking point came during a particularly stressful quarter, when Marcus was working 60-hour weeks on deals that felt meaningless to him. He missed his friends' gatherings and stopped exercising because he had no energy left after work. His mental health deteriorated as he spent his days in a job that contradicted everything he valued about meaningful work. When Vanessa broke up with him 6 months later, she said they wanted different things from life.